Gear consists of everything you equip directly to your character, including armor, weapons, and even your life and mana flasks. Simply press I to open your inventory, and you will see where to equip just about everything. Gear is going to be the main baseline for all your stats, offensive, defensive, and utility. To understand what gear you can equip, we need to touch base on attributes, strength, dexterity, and intelligence. In addition to a level requirement, most gear has an attribute requirement as well. You can press C to open your character screen to view your current attributes. These can be increased through gear or the passive skill tree. Although any gear can be equipped to any class, for new players, I recommend sticking to the attributes assigned to the class you picked. Don't worry, I've prepped a cheat sheet for you. Of course, if you feel like it, feel free to experiment with stuff outside your class. I'm not your mom, I can't tell you what to do. Weapons are your main source of offensive stats. They consist of martial weapons and casting weapons. There are one-handed weapons and two-handed weapons. One-handed weapons tend to have weaker stats than their two-handed counterparts, but they can equip a shield. Bows are weird though, and they can equip a quiver. For martial weapons, you want to pay attention to the physical damage stat. As you might guess, bigger numbers mean that weapon does more damage. Casting weapons don't have a damage stat, and instead, your base damage comes directly from your spells. They do come with a built-in spell though. These are usually pretty weak, but they don't cost any mana to cast. Armor is your main source of defensive stats. There are 3 different main defenses. Armor reduces physical damage hits, Evasion gives you a chance to not get hit at all, and Energy Shield works as a rechargeable shield, like you would see in other games like Borderlands or Risk of Rain. Each of these is generally tied to its own attribute. If you're building 2 attributes, you can pick Hybrid Armor with 2 different lower valued defenses. Like with weapons, you can equip anything to your character as long as you have the attributes, but your character will be easier to build if you stick to your class's baseline attributes. Remember, that's just a recommendation, not a limit. Weapons and armor aren't where gear stops. Rings and amulets have a wide variety of helpful stats. I personally like to use rings to improve my elemental resistances, and amulets for attributes. Flasks are most builds' main source of life and mana recovery. Always try to equip flasks with a higher amount recovered. Belts have a bunch of stats to help buff your flasks, and they allow you to equip a charm as well. Charms offer a way to resist elements or ailments you might struggle with. They automatically trigger when you take a certain damage type or get a certain ailment. Getting slowed is annoying? Try searching for a silver charm. I personally like using charms that prevent damage over time effects like bleed or poison, but the elemental resistance ones are also good picks before you get your resistances maxed from other gear. Now that we understand base stats on gear, let's take a look at rarity. The rarities are normal, which is white, magic, which is blue, and rare, which is yellow. There's also unique, which is orange. This is not legendary, but rather very specific niche gear for very specific scenarios and builds. Don't equip unique gear without reading it, as they often fundamentally change a core game mechanic. That said, for most cases, yellow rare gear will often be your best bet. Remember, white, blue, yellow. White, blue, yellow. Got it? Cool. So, what sets these different rarities apart? Believe it or not, a gear's base stat will be the same no matter its rarity. The real difference is how many affixes it can have. See those blue stats down there? Those are affixes. They consist of prefixes and suffixes. If you hold the Alt key while hovering your gear, you will be shown what's a prefix and what's a suffix. Some affixes have 2 lines of modifiers, so pay close attention to the little brackets on the right side of this overlay. Normal gear can't have any affixes, magic gear can have up to 1 prefix and 1 suffix, and rare gear can have up to 3 prefixes and 3 suffixes. As you play, you will pick up gold that can be spent at a town's merchants. At the start, you will have access to the Gear Merchant, the Magic Merchant, and the Gamble Merchant. The Gear Merchant is just about what you would expect. You can purchase armor and martial weapons here. This merchant resets its stock every time you level up, so be sure to visit frequently in search of upgrades. The Magic Merchant is similar, instead selling casting weapons, jewelry, and flasks. Flasks are generally really cheap, so it's a good idea to check here often for an upgrade. With this merchant, you can also disenchant items, where you can trade in unneeded rares and uniques for helpful materials. The Gamble Merchant gives you a randomly rolled gear of any type you choose. You'll always get at least a magic rarity gear. This is a good option for if you really need an upgrade, but the other merchants just aren't giving it to you. You can sell any gear you pick up and don't need to these merchants to earn more gold, though I definitely wouldn't recommend picking up every gear you find just to sell. Don't do it, you'll burn out fast. Later in Act 1, you'll also unlock a merchant who can respec your passive tree for gold. You will also come across some basic orb items that can be used to modify your gear. These are often referred to as currency, not to be confused with gold. To use them, simply right-click the currency, then left-click the gear. Scroll of Wisdom is used to identify magic and rare gear you find as you play. Unidentified gear cannot be equipped. It's generally recommended to carry some around as you play. You can buy more for cheap at the town's magic merchant, and eventually in Act 1, a character will join the town who can identify your items for free. Orb of Transmutation can be used to upgrade a normal item to magic and give it 1 affix. Orb of Augmentation can be used to further upgrade your magic gear and give it a 2nd affix. Both of these blue orbs are super common, and I always recommend using them both to fill any empty affix slots on your current normal or magic gear. Regal Orb upgrades a magic item to rare and adds another affix. Definitely remember to only use it after your magic item already has 2 affixes. Exalted Orb further upgrades your rare gear, adding another affix. Given that rare gear can have 6 affixes, you will go through a lot of these. Just keep in mind, these are uncommon, so try to refrain from using them on gear that did not roll well and will be easily replaced. The main thing to remember here is that the 4 orbs shown here work perfectly in the order listed. If you ever forget the order, just read their tooltips. Reading gets you pretty far in this game as it turns out. 2 last things you might notice on your gear are quality and sockets. Quality increases the base stats on martial weapons and armor, and the quality of the skill provided by casting weapons. This can be seen on ground loot as having superior in its name. Sockets, spotted by the small white dot next to the gear's name, can be filled by runes to add a stat of your choice to the gear. Two-handed weapons and body armor can normally hold up to 2 sockets, while other gear can normally have just 1. They're generally a great tool to add more physical damage to your martial weapons or elemental resistances to your armor. Keep in mind that depending on which gear you equip your runes, they'll have different effects. Be sure to read their tooltips carefully. If you change your mind about which rune to socket, you can just place a new rune in the socket to replace the old one. This will destroy the old rune. Eventually in Act 1, you will gain access to the salvaging bench, where you can take both of these gear types and smush them into materials to put these assets onto different gear. Did this video help? If so, be sure to subscribe for more, and feel free to ask questions in the comments or leave tips for other players.